Fams and monsters. They exist among us, and sometimes they win. Even the devil was an angel once. The world has its own rules, and these rules are not human. Some of us seek answers to the origin and existence of cryptids and the unexplained. Join us as we venture beyond the known and accepted boundaries. Welcome to our nightmare. I think you're going to like it. Hey folks, good evening and welcome to another episode of Fams and Monsters Radio, where we explore the strange and the unexplained. I'm your host, Lon Strickler, and thanks for joining us. Now, if you enjoy our content, then please subscribe, like, and share our presentations. Also, feel free to place comments. It's very important to us to get your idea and your thoughts as to what we present to you. Super Chat is active during the show, so please show your support for Fams and Monsters Radio by clicking the dollar icon underneath the chat. You can also support the channel by using the Buy Me a Coffee link that's on the banner or in the description as well. And your consideration is very much needed and appreciated. So tonight we've got a Fams and Monsters Fortean research team roundtable. James West is a two-time Dogman experiencer, has had multiple encounters with the paranormal, including shadow people, creatures, suspected demons, and ghosts, and has been physically possessed on one occasion by an unknown dark entity. James is also currently in the process of writing a nonfiction book about cryptid beings in the United States entitled 50 Cryptids in 50 States. In addition to this, James is a member of the Fams and Monsters Fortean research team. Kit Taylor is a film, television actor, writer, producer, and documentarian. His latest work includes a short documentary on the Fayetteville Incident, the Bledsoe Family story, titled Burden of Proof. Now, Kit was an investigator for MUFON and has recently become a member of Fams and Monsters Fortean research team. Having firsthand life-altering experiences, Kit's approach to investigating is from emphatic point of view and hopes to contribute positively to the world of high strangeness. And of course, Bernadette McDaniel is an investigator and researcher at Fams and Monsters Fortean Research. She's joining us tonight as a co-host, but she'll be involved with all the discussion as in the roundtable. She will soon be premiering her own show, A Paranormal Life, on Fams and Monsters Radio. So now, Chad Redding was supposed to join us tonight, but he had something come up, last minute. So it's too bad, but we'll get him back on here at another point. So everybody, thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Hi.
So I'm just going to go over a few things, first of all, before we get into it, because I definitely want to talk to Kit about his investigation with the Bledsoe family. This is something I've looked into very early, too, and it's a strange case, and I'm glad he's here to talk about it on his perspective as well. As far as team investigations that we have going on now, of course, we're always involved with this Chicago Mothman winged humanoid thing that's steadily going on, and not to the degree it has. It's kind of slowed up in recent months. A lot of it has been concentrating around the Bensonville area, which is southwest of the airport. But there have been some strange humanoid sightings in the region, including up in Madison. Tobias Whalen had posted an encounter report that he received, or a sighting report that he had received. And but this isn't unusual. We got a lot of strange humanoid sightings, during this whole process. I mean, ever since the beginning, every once in a while somebody will contact us and tell us that, look, I didn't see something with wings on it, but I saw a humanoid in the woods in one of those preserve areas around the city or somewhere else. I mean, there's a lot involved with these sightings. It's just a matter of us being able to figure out what the hell's really going on. Also, I had just posted this past week the initial witness report from the Berks County cryptid canine that we received a couple of months ago. We're in the process of working with that with a couple of the people on our team here in Pennsylvania. And then Eric Mintel, who's been on the show many times, he's also involved with the investigations. We're trying to hit this thing with all angles. I think after we get, try to figure out because this thing seems to be somewhat aggressive. And the last thing we want is someone going out there and get hurt. So we are eventually going to put boots on the ground and go out there. Now, the witness himself has continued to look into this, and he's giving his own reports. And in fact, I think this witness may eventually be part of the team. He's good. He really is. This is kind of his wheelhouse, the investigating. So, here in Pennsylvania, we can always use people. So that'll be interesting. And we'll be following up on that. Then I had another development today, which I really don't know how to act on it, but we're going to see if we can get any more evidence. About 6-7 months ago, I received a report west of Akron, Ohio, of a concentration of dogmen, upright canines. I did write an initial article about it. This is a family who had actually contacted Linda Godfrey about 10 years ago. In fact, some of their experience was in her book, but they kind of lost track with her and they were kind of keeping it quiet. But it was interesting that the witness had kept a diary, and some of the team have read the diary. I will eventually put this out a little bit more for the team and get them more involved. But Jennifer's been working on it firsthand. I've been working on it a bit. There were other issues with the property, spiritual. To be honest with you, there was some other stuff going on that was related to what these beings. But what happened today was I got a text from the witness, and she stated that they were hearing scratching sounds and sounds at night, and they didn't know what was going on. They got this real bad skunk, wet dog smell, which usually means that something's around. And she tells me that she caught a quick glimpse of a pup, a baby Dogman. I don't know what that's all about. They are putting out infrared cameras, 360 infrared, and a few other things. They're going to be kind of scoping the whole property. And this is a property. I mean, they are very near an area that has had a history of upright canine encounters over the years. So we're going to follow up on that. And in fact, this witness will be live with me on the show in about a month. So that's kind of going to be the thing going public. And we'll be getting more and more into that as we go on. There's a lot of good stuff going on. So I just figured I'd mention all that before we start talking. So tonight we got Kit Taylor, and we got James West, and we got Bernadette McDaniel with us. And, Kit's kind of new to the team, but he's been doing this for a while now. And the one thing that intrigues me about Kit is that he was involved with this, the Chris Bledsoe Sr. and Bledsoe Family UFO incident near Fayetteville, but I used to always refer to it as the Cape Fear River UFO incident. But Kit, tell us a bit about it. How'd you get involved with it? I know you did a short documentary, a film about it, and I know there was some alien activity as well.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. I did some investigation for MUFON for a little while, and I heard Ryan, Chris's son, on I think it was that UFO podcast, and I was listening to the guy, and I'm like, hey, he's got a lot of interesting insight about what's going on. So I looked into it further, and he was talking about the Discovery Channel documentary that they did on the Bledsoe family, and in his words, they did them dirty. And to an extent, I definitely agree with that. And being part of MUFON, I'm like, well, I joined because I wanted to kind of help people. I don't know much about this stuff, but talk to me. Let me see if I can help you. If I can't help you, maybe I can get someone to help you. But I know this stuff is happening, and people shouldn't be just blown off. And so that's what sort of drew me to this whole thing, because I wanted to sort of make up for what MUFON. I wanted to say MUFON. Certain people, I guess, in MUFON did with that. So it was very interesting. I reached out to Ryan on Twitter, not even thinking that he would even notice me, because no one notices me, right? And he did. And I just said to him, like, hey, I'd love to just get a crew up there and film, just film you and have you tell your story. I didn't want to go up there proving that there's aliens or any kind of, phenomena, because I knew that you can't go up there with that in mind. So I really wanted to focus on the family, what they've been through, because this family is a normal, wholesome, lovely family. And we talked for a good 6 months before I think he was comfortable enough with me to even talk about going up there. And by January, we were going back and forth with dates, and towards the end of January, we had finalized a solid date. It would have been the end of March, beginning of April. And one of the weirdest things about this whole leading up to this trip was, I know this is a thing, but when you see 1111 or 444 or 1212 or 55, I was getting that 3 times a day. And beforehand, maybe I would notice it once in a while, but oh, look, it's 1111, make a wish. I have screenshots, probably about 100, 110 different instances of this phenomenon happening. And I'm going to myself, does this have to do with something that, that just like put me in the right path? And what's interesting enough, after we shot it, it stopped. I mean, I rarely see it anymore. So it's kind of back to normal. But yeah, man, that being said, I was straight up with them. I don't do documentaries. Like I said, I'm filming TV. I'm usually in front of the camera, not behind the camera. And I said, this is going to be like a Scooby-Doo operation. You're going to have a couple people that have no idea what they're doing, but I just want to go and talk. And like we'd sit down and have a conversation at a table. And funny enough, it worked out, because that's what they wanted. They just wanted to talk to someone. And again, I'm not there to prove or disprove. I just kind of wanted to have them tell that story. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, we get there, and we go out to dinner after just this little long drive, and I can remember it was about 7:30. Chris starts getting a little antsy, and he's like, "Hey, they're here," and I'm like, "Okay." And we were at a restaurant, so we were about 10, 15 minutes away from, well, not even 5 minutes from the house, Chris's property. So we were having fun just talking. I was meeting Ryan and Chris Jr., who, by the way, is a huge part of the story. I think that he's left out, and that's unfair to him, because I think out of everyone other than Chris Sr., he's got some trauma from this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so we were just sort of talking, and Chris Senior wanted to get out of there and go because he felt bad. He didn't want us driving all the way up there and not seeing a thing. And I was like, don't worry about it. If we don't see anything, we'll just talk about you. You know, people will want to hear it. If they don't have to watch it. So we get there, and lo and behold, as soon as we got on the property, one of the people I was with, they saw this light, and I caught a glimpse of it out of my right eye. This light sort of coming up, and this is what it does. These lights come from the ground. I mean, not all the time, but most of the time you see them. This was like a deep red light, and we were hooked. You know, and from what I've experienced, the stuff's kind of bashful at first. I think it sort of feels you out, you know. And what Chris Senior said, he said, approach this without fear, without, you know, negativity, and you'll see something. And I wouldn't say we had fear, more of, you know, this sort of curiosity, but also trepidation. You know, I walking into something like this, you hear, you know, you heard the podcast, you watch the videos, and then it's surreal. You're there, and then all of a sudden you see something, and you're like, oh, okay, is this stuff real? And yeah, it is. If you go on his Instagram, he has a lot of videos that he takes with his night vision camera. And what I found, this does not do justice for what is going on, because a lot of times people say, oh, it's a plane and satellite, and yeah, I could see that. When you're there, these I can just only describe them as, you know, balls or orbs. They're not as high as you think they are, and you know, people were like, oh, you know, put up a bunch of 4K cameras and you'll catch evidence. This stuff doesn't translate well over video.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can see the shape or color, and on your phone or on your camera is not the same color, not the same shape. Anyway, so if you know, some of the stuff that passes overhead, when it gets to about, you know, about a 45, 50 degree angle, you can see that there is space above it. So these aren't satellites, these aren't planes. You know, I had a satellite tracker on my phone. You know when there's planes because, you know, the FAA mandates, you know, the lights. I don't know the name for them, but you know what a plane is. You know what a helicopter is. They don't do these sort of moves, and they don't come. They don't typically. You don't see them shooting out of the ground and sort of hanging out and hovering. So yeah, that was sort of a 30,000 overview of what happened. There was a lot to talk about, and you know, if you want specifics, I can give you something better. I don't want to start rambling and driving people nuts over here.
Well, I know when this first occurred, I was one of the early people that Chris got a hold of.
Right.
And when he was describing all this to me, I was having a hard time trying to figure out what he was trying to tell me. I don't think he really knew what he was experiencing. And then I know his son had the entity encounter in the woods, from what I remember. But I do remember in particular the huge orbs that they saw over the river. And there was some other activity going on. But you are right. You know, that documentary that they did on it was, you know, it was kind of a hit piece as far as I was concerned.
It wasn't aired in the correct order. You know, Chris had the lie detector in the very begining, but it was shown in the end, and they were blasting him for 3 hours, asking like the same 20 questions until he hit you know, a false or you know, a deception. You know, and Chris, we still stay. I can't speak. We still stay in touch. And this guy is, when you see him on a podcast or when you watch him on video, that's him. He is just a genuine dude.
Yeah.
And you know, I had a hard time because it was almost bringing me to tears, because there was so much love with this family. I just wanted to hang out with them because I just felt like part of this family. Like I just didn't want to go home because they were taking care of us, buying us dinner every night. And I would say the biggest thing that made me believe that these people were absolutely telling the truth was it was the second night we were there, and it was about 8:30, and they ordered a bunch of pizzas for us, and they have a compound, so there's a bunch of different places, so they're sort of like a common room housing, and we're all eating these pizza and just talking not about the phenomenon but just about life. And Chris goes out there because he senses these things. And of course, we go up there too because we're still excited. But Ryan's wife, Chris Jr., and Emily, the sister, and her husband, they're in there. They didn't even want to go outside. They didn't care. And I go, if they were making this up, or if they were full of crap, they'd be out there with us. And I asked them, when we came back, I'm like, you don't care about this? They go, we've seen it so many years that it doesn't matter anymore. We see it every night, and we just live with it now. And Lon, actually, by the end of my time there, I almost started feeling the same way. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I've already saw this now. And it's like, I would never have thought that coming there. I thought I'd be out there camping out till 5 a.m, eye in the sky. And then after a while, there's so much activity that you're like, okay, what else now?
Well, this is the one thing about being an investigator and looking into this real weird stuff. Experiencer reports and such to do with either extraterrestrials or UFOs and such. You kind of become part of that, and it does affect you.
Yeah.
I know when I started working with David years ago, and thanks, Thomas, for your donations, much appreciated. When I first started with David, that's what it was like with me. I mean, I didn't really get it at first, but boy, as time went on, I started experiencing a lot of the similar type of phenomena. And, as time, I've been talking to people and talking to others, and I get the same thing from them. As soon as we're going into something and we start experiencing, well, I'm pretty sure that's what happened to you.
Yep.
So,
I'm looking at the chat here, and Jose had asked if these could be spirits, and he said pictures of orbs up close sometimes reveal faces. I do have a picture that Chris has. It's probably been around the internet, of one of these orbs that does have a face in it. It's undeniable. So to answer that question, yeah, I don't. As long as I'm saying, I don't know if Chris even knows what this stuff is. Spirits, I would say yes. Interdimensional, yes. We don't know. It's all the above, and that's what makes it so interesting.
Well, and Bernadette will attest to this. Many times we'll get involved with cases, and it just always there's something else that gets involved with it. I mean, another aspect of the paranormal.
Yeah.
Many times it looks like you've got spirits and aliens and UFOs and a lot of other stuff getting involved, and and that's what upsets me about investigators and researchers who just focus on one phenomena. And they just stay away from all the other, external stuff. And 9 times out of 10, it has something to do with the original sighting or encounter. So,
and that's kind of how I thought about
this.
Yeah, I get that.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. And I was just agreeing that with we're talking about cryptids. I was always skeptical. Then I'm like, I can't. If I see the stuff and I physically I'm seeing the stuff, I can't discount this other, who am I to say that one is real and one is not? I mean, that's just a terrible way of thinking. This is so beyond, I think, of anything, any kind of comprehension, that it would be just ridiculous to think that way. And I was guilty myself of it. And something when you experience it, that things change pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find this picture of this orb. I'm going to send it to Vincent. And maybe you
Okay.
can share it. It's pretty interesting.
So, so James, of course, you've been involved with the, or I've had 2 encounters with these dogmen. You're out in Greene County, Pennsylvania. You're right in the southwest corner of the state. I think you had some other encounters, another phenomena recently to do with UFO activity.
Yeah, about 10, 11 days ago, my mom's car broke down, so I was taking her back and forth to work, and she's on the night shift. And so I pick her up at 6 a.m. and I pick her up at 9 p.m. and then pick her back up at 6 a.m. the next morning. Well, I was going to pick her up, and on Nemacolin Road down here in eastern Greene County, I noticed this. It was like an orangish, sort of like donut shaped object in the sky, and it was just hovering. It had to be about, I mean, obviously it was a few miles off. Yeah, there's the picture of it there. It was a few miles away from me, just hovering, but it had to be about 300 to 500 feet up. There's a tower there that's a couple hundred feet tall, and it was only 100 feet, maybe 200 feet higher than that tower. What caught me is weird. I thought, well, maybe it's a planet. Maybe it's just something that I'm not aware that would be there. Well, the next night, usually if you see a planet, it'll hang around for a night or two, at least. And the next night I went through and it was gone. It wasn't there at all. Well, the night after that, so this is the third night, it was back, and it was about a half a mile further east than it was before, just sitting there hovering. And you can see it looks sort of like a blood platelet is what it reminds me of, or like a red blood cell. And since I talked to you about it the other day, I went to my father's house the night before last, coming back from his house, going up a steep hill that he lives near. I saw the exact same thing, and it was a good 7 to 8 miles away from where I had seen it the first night. And it looked exactly the same. I was going up the hill and I could see it, and I thought, well, maybe it's a plane or something, and I'm just, because I'm driving and maybe I'm just not seeing it right. Well, I got up to the top of the hill and went to pull off, and I pulled off the road and was watching it, and by the time it went behind a tree and then was just gone. It never came out on the other side of the tree. It never. And I drove further away and kept looking back, and never saw it again. So, I mean, if it was a plane or a helicopter, I mean, you would have saw it flying. I mean, they're fast, but they're not that fast.
Yeah. We have, Butch
and they just went one direction. Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Lon.
It's all right.
Yeah. The first 2 times I saw it, it just hovered. But that night coming back from my dad's, it was going in one direction, and if it was a plane, you'd think it would have crashed because it was going so slow. You know what I mean? I've never seen like a jet or even like a biplane go that slow. And then for it to just be gone in a blink of an eye without catching it flying away, I don't know what it could have been. It was just so unusual. I had to mention it.
Yeah, this is some of the stuff Butch had taken pictures of out his way, and a lot of times they're colorful. We've had them in green and different colors and blue, and many times they look like a donut up there. They got a hole in the middle of them.
It's like a torrid.
Yeah, and many times you can actually watch them, and they will morph. I like to call them bioforms because we've gotten a lot of. In fact, I had a guy down in Florida used to get a lot of those similar photographs for me, and so it's bizarre.
Oh,
yeah,
that's pretty.
Looks like a jellyfish.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I was thinking
it
that.
Does. Those were all taken in Florida.
Wow.
around.
Do you know whereabouts? Oh yeah, because
Yeah, over by Denton Beach, over there,
okay.
off the coast. Around the Panhandle.
Yeah.
And I know the guy lives in that. He lived in Nashville, so he took some pictures up there. But there's one of them.
Yeah.
That's one that Butch took. This is one that here in Pennsylvania, and pretty bizarre. So we did have a
Now,
question.
when you saw this, James,
Yeah.
sorry, did it react to you? That your thought, anything
No,
you're thinking?
no, it
Does that
didn't.
make sense?
It didn't seem to react to anything. I mean, it just kind of floated there. But now I
See,
do
that's
know.
because
Whenever
Go
I
ahead.
was about 13, living in Nemacolin, I looked out the window one night and there's a radio tower right near where I saw this object. Well, whenever I was 13, I saw two objects hovering around that same object. So I don't know if it's something to do with that object or that tower itself that these things are drawn to.
Mhm.
Or, because whenever I saw them when I was younger, they actually looked as though they were tapping the energy from that tower. The lights went out on the tower while they were near it. So I don't know, maybe they have a more sophisticated means of withdrawing power now and the lights didn't go out this time. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Vincent said he's got
I'm
the photos
gonna
from
guess.
Kit.
Yeah, I sent him a couple when we were talking, and yeah,
Oh,
that's.
wow.
Wow.
I mean, so you could see if you look to the right side, you can see an ear. You can even see the ridges in the ear. I mean, the nose. If you see the mouth, there's teeth in it. Oh, that yeah. I zoomed in, but clearly the nose. You can see almost like little buck teeth there too. Yeah, it's
Wow.
and he said also if you look to the left, there's almost sort of like a demon type of face. I do see sort of then like a nose right there, and then
Yeah.
like an eye
Yeah,
almost.
like a profile of the demon. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said that this was like seemed like it was like a tortured soul. I don't know. I just seeing that face, like I said, that's crazy. I mean, you can even to the ear, on the right side, you can see like where the sideburn is up top, where the hair ends and in top of the ear begins. It's just so clear.
Yeah, and you can even see the eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaky.
So Nancy Malcolm asks, this is an interesting question, and if anybody in the group wants to answer, just go ahead. Do you think portal travel uses plasma orbs to keep travelers safe? I don't know. I haven't even really thought about that.
I have had thought about this. It's almost like how a submarine would keep the people inside safe. Not necessarily thinking about plasma, but yeah, maybe. I mean, that's a very good thought.
Yeah, for all we know,
I'm just not smart enough to know.
Yeah, for all we know, plasma can bend space and time. Who knows?
That's a great question, Nancy. Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
The whole orb thing, and when we gotten into UFOs and talking about spirits and UFO, and entities and such, there does seem to be a lot of orb activity. In fact, orb activity has kind of come into play with a lot of the cryptid sightings we've been having, especially in this area. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a connection there between these orbs and a lot of the other aspects that a lot of the other sightings and such that we do have. She did ask, Nancy again asked, do you think all orbs are the same or some sentient and others methods of travel? And I think that's possible. It could be like maybe a capsule. They use orbs as a capsule to travel through time and space and such. Maybe that's what they use.
Oh yeah, and she asked too, could it be a remote viewer? And that it's a great question too. Almost like it's someone seeing through like a porthole. Again, this is why data is so important for us to. We need to learn. so we can learn and all these sightings we need to catalog, because I can't answer these questions not until we have enough information, and that's again a great question, Nancy. Awesome.
Yeah,
Nancy's asking really good questions.
Yeah.
This is something that comes up. I mean, I've just heard it more recently. I've been trained to remote view, and I've heard people talk to me about, well, how does remote viewing affect other people as far as when you're viewing a location or viewing a person for that matter? Are you able to be seen or noticed somehow or sensed somehow when you go into that area? I believe it's possible. And in fact, I have talked before about a remote view I did off planet once during my training, where one of the entities realized I was there. And I was watching this thing, and I was trying to figure out what the hell it was looking at me so weird for. I thought, well, this thing couldn't see me. And it turned out it saw me. And the monitor who I was working with pulled me out of there quickly, because this could have turned out to be a pretty bad situation. So I think, that's another thing about remote viewing. I think there's a lot that we don't understand about it. Now, I do use it for a lot of my work, but, yeah, Vincent says the entity pic looks like Eckhart's photo. It does. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, that one. Yeah. I mean, even look at the eyes. I mean, that's freaky. And that neck is not. It looks like my neck when I was in high school.
You can see like some kind of mouth. I don't. Yeah.
And in the picture that I sent over to when Chris took that picture, there was someone standing there. It was next to a tree, but where the entity was, no one could see that anything was there. And when he took the picture on his iPhone, the screen didn't show anything until he hit that button and went into his photos and saw, whoa, what is this? Like, there we go. So that you can see shoulders almost, but that was not there in view as we see reality, I guess, which is freaky. And then I was telling Vincent that it was sort of enhanced a bit. I think Tom DeLonge had posted this on his Twitter a while back. Again, it's a freaky picture. We actually went to that exact spot where that picture was taken. The funny thing about Chris, it's not the property, because this picture here was taken at his old house, so it's not really necessarily the property. More, I think, of him. I think stuff follows him, or somehow is attached to him.
This type of phenomenon seems to follow people around. I mean,
and it happened to me when I left. Like I said, 6 weeks. I had stuff where I'm like, okay, and it's it's looking back, I still seems surreal. And I have to think about. I'm like, did this actually happen? I'll be sitting. And normal stuff, your bills have to be paid, this and that, and I just look up and I go, oh man, I witnessed something that a lot of people have never seen before, and I'm sort of getting part of this answer to one of life's biggest questions, and sort of makes that worry about the mundane kind of go away, and know that something bigger and better out there. And to me, it could be scary to some, and to me, it sort of calms me down a bit.
Well, you are, Kit, I know you're getting involved with learning how to connect with what's been going on in Chicago. You've talked to Jennifer a bit about that.
Yes, that surprised me too, because everyone's a skeptic until it happens to them, right?
What's that?
Everyone's a skeptic until it happens to them.
Ain't that the
truth? That's that happens to everybody. Yep. I've had people that were diehard skeptics and then had an encounter of some type, and then they're diehard believers. It doesn't take much. But hey, folks, those in the chat, if you've got a question, feel free to put it in caps and put it up on the chat for us to answer. We'll try to do the best we can with it.
Yeah, because these are some great questions that we're getting.
Yeah.
I wish I had the mental capacity to ask such, thought-provoking questions. But again, I just come at this thing like, I'm an amateur. I'll never know everything about something, so I might as well just be real about it. And and that's kind of what I bring to the table. Just me being me, and every once in a while.
Kit for maybe you might not know, but Bernadette, that's how I met Bernadette, because she was her and her boyfriend Tommy had some encounters at their home, and we started working with her. We realized that she was a beacon, and she's had other encounters all her life, and that's one of the entities from Chicago, and it showed up at David Eckhart's place.
Yeah, he's not too. He's a couple hours away from me up north.
Is he? He's up. Yeah. He's outside of Pensacola.
Oh.
Yeah. He's up in.
Yeah, Florida is so big. I mean, I'm in Tampa. That's like maybe even an 8-hour drive from me.
Yeah, still, that's a long drive. Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys. So, how do you feel that your experiences have changed you for the better or for the worse?
Oh my God.
Whoa, that's not loaded.
Yeah, right.
Well, I will say, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't have the Bigfoot and the winged humanoid experience back in the 80s. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. I wouldn't even thought much about it. I might have been involved with the paranormal and helping people and going into locations, and because I am intuitive, but I don't think I'd have taken the turn to the dark side of the paranormal, which is cryptids, basically. And I know James can say that too. He had those 2 Dogman encounters, and I think it's the same in his for him as well. He probably wouldn't even thought twice about going into that.
I would have just been out in the woods hunting my deer and having fun, and I wouldn't have never thought that what could be creeping around the next tree.
Yeah. I don't go out in the woods anymore and hunt. After that first encounter, I don't even go out as much as I used to later on after that. And because I started realizing, hey, there's stuff out there we don't know about.
Definitely.
And it shows up occasionally. I wasn't looking for it, but it shows up.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you more aware of yourself and your surroundings.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In my case, I haven't had much encounters with cryptids. Lon, I did tell you about when I was, looking for rocks. I experienced sort of that bubble, or that sort of, I call it like a noise cancellation effect, where all of a sudden I didn't hear the stream running, I didn't hear any bugs out there, and then all of a sudden I felt like kind of nervous and got goosebumps, and I don't know what that could have been, because it happened, and once I realized it was going on, it went away. But as far as the other stuff, I've had not a lot, but I've had encounters of what we would call UFOs or phenomena, and how it's changed me. I would say, the positive for sure. I'm always looking up now, looking up. And I also feel like, as I said before, when I get worked up or anxiety, I just remember that, like, hey, this is not all that there is. And, that's sort of, again, for me, it calms me. And for some others, it could freak them out. But again, I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't change any of my experiences, because, ultimately every little experience you have makes you who you are, and, it could have been a terrible experience at the time, but it could have made in 10 years down the road, change your life for the better. And I actually had that conversation with Chris, if he would ever want to take that back. And he said, no. He was an avid hunter. He won't hunt now.
I get it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I have a fishing, I'm starting a fishing YouTube, and we mostly catch and release, and sometimes I'll see when I fish some, people will like stomp on a fish, and I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like,
It's ignorant.
have some humanity. It's just selfish. But then I remember that they're just being them. And I can't get mad at that because they're not thinking the way I'm thinking. So for me, that's how I've changed. Where I I guess I'm less selfish in a way, but I'm also a little bit selfish because I'm glad that I had this personal experience. So I think some selfish led to some selflessness.
Well, that's what I like about having experiencers on the team, because first of all, you understand when people have incidents, encounters, or sightings. So you kind of know you've been in that boat, and you know how they react, and you know how you felt, and that's why I think it's good. That's why when I get someone who wants to come on the team, if they are an experiencer and they have some personal insight, that's going to help them get on, because we always use that, because that's the best part of being an investigator, is just realizing, understanding what your witnesses are experiencing. So we got.
Yeah, I think my greatest tool about being an investigator would be empathy. You
absolutely
have to have empathy.
Yeah.
You have to understand that the people who reach out are. I couldn't do it. I have had a couple sightings, and even when I was investigating for MUFON, and I had a case, I had a hard time reaching out. And for someone to reach out and to tell their story, better than I could do, and that's already more power to them. And I'm thankful for that, because, again, data is so important, but also, again, treating this with empathy, because this stuff can change your mindset. It can blow your reality away, which it's hard. You got to be very careful and handle it with almost like kid gloves, and just have them trust you and show that you understand them. Even if I didn't have a Bigfoot encounter, I could talk to someone who did and understand that their mindset, and hopefully help them any way I can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maury Gaddy asked, and this goes back to Bledsoe family again, has Bigfoot or other cryptids been seen by the Bledsoe family?
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat. Say that again.
She asked, how has Bigfoot or other cryptids been seen by the Bledsoes?
Oh, I don't know if that has never come up. I know that Chris Jr.'s entities that we saw the picture of these red-eyed sort of silver beings.
Uh-huh.
That, I think, was the closest they had really come to any kind of being encounter, other than Chris being on the ship.
Right.
Also, I have a theory about those entities that were hanging around Chris Jr. When Chris had regression, and you can find this. There's sort of it's printed out of his full regression. He's worried about his son,
Mm-hmm.
and the entities on the ship saying he's okay. I feel like these things were like babysitting Chris Jr.
Interesting.
I
remember seeing it. I did see it, and that's interesting.
They didn't harm him. They what freaked him out was gazing into these red eyes, which were almost, he said, like old lenses that would, like shutters that would go up and down like that. I don't know if that's blinking or what, but it's hard for him to talk about it. When we had that's that picture. I mean, seeing that at his age, he was like 17. Again, had his world blown out of the back of his head. And him and I are very close. And the whole family, but him especially, there's a sweet. You can tell he's a sweet soul. And he when I interviewed him, and I'm not going to show it because Uh, that's him. That was his experience. But when he talked about it, I broke down crying along with his sister. She held him because as an actor, I study human behavior and I try to mimic it as best I could. I'm watching this guy and I'm feeling every word he's saying, and it just dumped on me, and I couldn't help but cry because I'm just thinking about the 7-year-old kid who was hanging out, having fun, playing football, fishing, and then all of a sudden everything that he knew was changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say this too, but after my experience, people ask me, "Oh, like, man, how do you feel?" I said, "Well, you know how your parents tell you there's Santa Claus, and like 3 or 4 years old, you find out that he's 5 years old, he's not real. Well, imagine you're 40 years old and you go down the stairs and you see that fat old man put presents on your tree, and you're like, oh my God, Santa's real." That's how I felt about this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, it's only that I can sort of correlate that to. But I couldn't imagine being 17 and just sitting face to face with this thing. I think there was two, maybe three, but you know, and I asked him, did you think they were there to scare you, and he said no. I don't think they understand that they can be very scary if you're not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, like Nancy says on here, you're an empath, and it's pretty obvious. And
yeah, well, and that's one of the reasons why I became an actor. I've always I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm so emotional. But and it's hard. It really is hard. But also, I wouldn't trade it for anything because it's just I feel like I just get people, or at least try to, because I love human behavior. I love just talking to people. I think we learn so much, and we never really have in-depth conversations anymore. It's a lot of superficial, hey, how's the weather, but not like, tell me something about you, tell me secrets, tell me, you know, let me in. And I think people are just afraid to have that type of conversation, but I'm all for it, you know. And that's why you know,
sorry.
talking.
Sorry.
No, I shut me up. Shut me up.
Oh no, you're okay. Nancy also said finding other experiencers are such a relief. It's such a relief finding other people, you know, basically.
Yeah.
Who've had, it's way back.
It can be a burden. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, it can be a burden. You know, that's something I realized from the very beginning. You know, I'm the same way. When I get into a case, and you get to know the individuals, the family. It's a family, and you get to know the individuals. You know what they're going through. You're talking to them all the time. You know, and you know, you start feeling what's going on. You connect.
Yeah.
That has happened to me so many times. I try
and
not to let it happen.
Down. You know, you just don't want to let them down. You want to do right by them.
Yeah. I mean, there have been times when I would literally just tell them, you know, I'm 24/7. Something happens in the middle of the night, give me a call. My wife wasn't thrilled about it, but you know, that's what I was doing. That was part of what I was involved with, and so I understand. I do understand.
Yeah.
And
I've been experiencing these things.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Lon. I've been experiencing these things since I was 4 years old. So it's to have someone else sit there and go, this is what I experienced. And you look at them and you're like, so I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
hug me.
It's like you feel that rush, that like weight taken off you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's beautiful.
James Vincent wants to know, have you ever had dreams since your experience with the Dogman?
Oh yeah, for the longest time, and periodically still, I had night terrors and nightmares, night terrors, whatever you want to call them. I just remember waking up in a puddle of cold sweat, and you just keep having a reoccurring dream or nightmare of this thing in front of you, and it changes. Sometimes it attacks you, sometimes it doesn't, but the first experience was bad enough, but the second one, when I actually had physical contact with it, I mean, like I still have dreams about it. They're just not as violent as they were, but I still have dreams. Just like if you were playing, just say you're a football player, you won the big game, you scored the winning touchdown. Well, you have that dream of scoring that touchdown over and over throughout your life. And that's kind of the same thing was and still is, that I'll still get that feeling. I mean, my girlfriend, she shakes me awake and says, "My God, I thought you were going to kill me in your sleep because you're throwing punches and grabbing and screaming and yelling." And I'm not even aware I'm doing it until I wake up from it, But yeah, definitely. Like I said, I still get them now, just not as often. Ever since I opened up about it and started talking about it, they've been getting less and less frequent.
Bernadette, go a little deeper into what you've experienced in your life as far as entities and sensing things and such.
Oh my gosh, where do you want me to start?
Well, just start from where
So I guess the best way to start is when I was about, I'm gonna say 4 or so. I was doing what all little kids do, and I vividly remember running through the dining room and somebody just basically saying, "Hey, you need to go to the window and watch this." And I didn't see anybody, but I thought, sure, I'm gonna go. It's an opportunity to climb up where I'm not supposed to be. I climbed up on this windowsill, and it was like I guess a bay window where you could sit up on there because they were built in bookcases, and you could look across the park and to the other houses. Climbed up there, and I was looking out, and there was a park in the middle, so it was like the houses were very far apart. You couldn't see into someone else's house. So when I sat up there, I looked out the window in the house directly across. There was, I could see like it was like a blind, and there was a man. He was climbing up on the ladder, and long story short, he hung himself. And I wasn't very fazed because my mom had come home at that time, and something was like, I have to tell her. I saw this. I have to tell her. So I ran and I told her, and my grandmother came from the kitchen, and my mom just looked at her and she's like, "What have you been letting her watch?" And my grandmother's like, "Nothing. She's been playing." And I'm like, no, I'm not going to say the person's name. He had hung himself. Like, I knew who the neighbor was, and I was very adamant about it. And, my mom was like, "Just go play." And a few minutes later, there were sirens, there was screaming. And my mom and grandma just like looked at me. And my mom went outside to find out what was going on. And she came back in and she said something to my grandmother. And she's like, "You're to keep her in the house for a while. Just keep her in the house for a while, and everything will be okay. We're not to talk about this." And
how
that
old you were 4?
I was about 4. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
And I mean, I can still see it today. And it was a reoccurring thing in that house that I had seen things. There was
but it's just not the house. That's you. I mean, you see stuff now that others can't see, and
yeah. Yeah, when we moved into this house, when we went to buy this house, I looked around and I'm just like, "So where's your son?" Because I saw there was a few small things, but I'm just like, because I could tell there was a boy here, and they're like, "Oh, well, he's deceased." And I was thinking to myself, oh, great, But after we moved in, I felt like something was watching me, and I was pregnant at the time. And my boyfriend, he went to work, and he normally goes to work very early, and I would hear talking. I would hear like there was a party, and I'm just laying there like, no, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to, put up with it. And it kept going and going, and every now and then he would hear it. It wouldn't be as bad, but he would hear it. And he's like, "It's the neighbor's TV." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not the neighbor's TV, I swear." So this past year, it got so much worse. It got to the point where he was in the shower, and this was in the afternoon, and you could hear it. And he would come down the steps and the TV would be off and I'd be staying in the kitchen. I'd be like, he's like, why is the TV still out? I'm like, that is not the TV. Go in the living room. He would go charging in the living room. TV wasn't on. And then we called you and yeah.
Yeah,
So
you did.
It's just like it followed me my entire life. And it seemed, thinking back, it seemed to have followed my mom a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to have been a generational type of thing because there were things she saw and the way she acted over some things where I could tell she experienced things, but she wouldn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just,
yeah. Well, I don't have anybody in my family that has any ability that I know of. And I kept all this stuff to myself for years.
Yeah.
And I never really told any of them about it. And, I think it was just the best anyway. So, yeah.
and that's how my mom was. My mom was like, we don't talk about this stuff. This is what happens. There was this one time we had lived in Fayette County and we were going into the Kmart and there was something above the Kmart. It was like this cigar shaped thing and it was vibrating. And I saw it and there were people on my left. I was about 17 and it was a man and woman. They were talking and they saw it and they were talking and like pointing at it. And I stopped my mom. I'm like, look at that. Like, do you see that? And she's like, I see it. And like, we were standing there a minute and I'm like, that is so cool. Like, I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is it? And she's like, we're going in the store. Let's go. She dragged me. Like, she literally held my arm, my shoulder and dragged me. And I'm like, what was that? Like, I want to go back out. And she's like, no, you're going to stay here. Like, she's very angry about it. And I'm like, okay, like, don't you want, like, what is it? Don't you want to know what it is? You're very nosy. She's like, no, we're not going to go find out. Like, oh my God, she's the nosiest person alive. But she did not want to know what that was. And that just like, it set off the alarm bells that she didn't want to stay out there. But those,
right.
It seemed like no one else but those people and us, noticed it, And then
do you think your mother had a bad experience at some point?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
This is why it's important we have outlets to talk about this stuff because it can just, it's trauma. I mean, and people need to release this trauma in one way or another. And if there's no one there to listen or believe them, it's just going to make it, it's going to compound all the feelings you get and it just, you're going to resent it.
Right.
And then you'll start, and then denying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And there are so many people out there that are experiencing all kinds of things and they just don't understand what's going on. We got a couple cases this past 2 weeks, one up in Wisconsin and another one, where was that at? Down in Kentucky. Lots of stuff that the witnesses, experiencers have no idea what's going on. And you kind of got to take them by the hand. But fortunately, when you have somebody on a team who understands it, who's been involved with something like that, it makes it a lot easier. And,
Yeah.
So, folks, if you got any questions, we're going for another half an hour. So, folks, if you have another questions, please put them up there and we'll try to get them answered. I was talking to Kid about the Chicago Mothman, winged humanoids, ultra-terrestrials, and I know Jennifer did explain to you what our theories are as to what these things are, what we call the unseen ones or the winged ones and such. And I know Bernadette's been involved with that as well because she's had experiences. And we've had a couple other people on the team who have had experiences. So I believe, Kit, that as you go on with this and you'll start experiencing more. I don't know what it is about me because I don't seem to be able to connect with them that well for whatever reason. Maybe it's just me. But I hope you're able to. I hope you're able to connect and help us find some answers.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely had. Yeah, it's hard to say. I didn't. How do I put this? On the phone and talking out loud to this, unseen one. I felt silly. I have to be honest. I felt silly,
Right.
but I believed. I didn't want to discount it. And she had said, one of the things you'll feel maybe like a stuffy ear, and I swear to God, and about 10 seconds after that. Well, at first I had like a chill go up my right arm into my neck, and then about 10 seconds after that, I had a stuffy ear, and I'm like, is it my mind doing this to me, or is there something happening? But it doesn't matter because it happened, and I'm just getting chills thinking about it now because I can't explain that. So, and then the only I can say is, I'm very open to it now. And yes, I felt a little silly, but now I feel silly for feeling silly, I guess. But you don't know how to act or react until you're in that situation. And I think it's a little bit of leap of faith on your part.
Well, for years we had been looking into this, and we really had no clue as to what's been going on. But for whatever reason, when all this started happening more and more at the airport, and then they just started making contact. And, we're still in the early stages of this. I don't know how much they really trust us. I think they trust members of the team much more than they do others. I don't think they like me too much. But I don't know.
What did you do to them?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with me. I mean, maybe Bernadette can answer that, but I don't know what the deal is with me. I don't know.
They like you. That's not the case. I think they like you.
I don't know. They I don't seem to be able to open up to them as well as others can. So folks, you got questions, put it up there. We're here to answer questions. If as many of you know, we've been looking into this Dogman phenomena here in Pennsylvania. We got some really weird stuff. I did post something on the blog the other day about this case. Lily Pond, have you ever heard of orbs running along railroad tracks? I don't know what it is about railroad tracks, but it seems to be a lot of weird stuff associated with railroad tracks. I had somebody tell me one time, and I don't know how true this is, but they said that they believe that railroad tracks, because of the metal and it's a constant travel area, and it's defined, maybe like an artificial ley line. What do you think about that? You think that's possible?
Yeah, I don't see
I
why
think anything's
Sounds
possible.
like it. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Energy to iron. Yeah, that might be true too. Yeah, I know they talk about
energy iron. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's all elements have some type of energy, and of course I've used crystals forever, and I use it in my work, and we have several people on the team who use crystals. So I guess you can use it for a lot of things. I use it for energy magnifying when I'm doing a case or doing an RV or something. Libby wants to know, can we talk ways to protect ourselves? Oh, well, that's a good question. I know what I do. I use the white light method. Basically, I sense that a white light is extending from my body and goes beyond the aura and kind of shields me from malevolency or energies or evil energies or, something that's there to hurt me. Now, there's a lot of people use a lot of different things, gold light, affirmations, even just using crystals or some type of divination. I've heard them all, I guess for each person, it's easier to use the one that's best for you. Some people use their chakras, more so for protection as opposed to, other things. I don't know. What do you use anything, Bernadette?
I use sea salt.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, strangely
that's
enough,
very interesting.
yeah, strangely enough, for like all my moms, we don't talk about this, we don't do this. That was her main thing, like sea salt. Like she would put it under my mattress. She would, carry it on her, and that's where I learned that. Sometimes she would line windowsills with it. And it's just like I agree with Lon. There had to have been something there. So,
as an avid fisherman, when I go out on the water or the ocean, I always feel rejuvenated, refreshed, and a lot of my inspiration comes from being near salt water.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that was very interesting. You said that. So yeah, I think it has something to do with it.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the best protections.
Yeah, we use it for a lot of different things. I mean, I've actually used salt, black salt or blue salt to isolate entities or protect people from entities, or using rock salt as a perimeter to a property to keep certain energies out. I mean, even in locations in houses, I've had people put salt into corners of the room or on windowsills. It seems to absorb some of the energy. I don't necessarily know how to explain it, but I also have them use other things like black tourmaline or other types of crystals, depending on the situation. But yeah, I mean that's probably as good as any. I think more people ought to use affirmations. Quite frankly, there's an affirmation I use every evening before around midnight. I use I use an actual affirmation or a protection that I've been using now for 20 years. I don't even know if maybe it's been longer than that. So yeah, I think a lot of people use that.
I think with me, it's kind of like Jesus. I think I'm okay. I don't know.
I think whatever you believe in, you give it the power, and that helps protect you as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about the intent. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, faith has a lot to do with it. It doesn't matter what you have faith in, whatever source.
Yeah, it's that power belief, regardless of what you believe in, because it's just you're focusing an intent into positive energy, hopefully.
Right.
Yep.
It could be like a pebble your grandfather gave you, and that could be the best protection in the world.
Yeah.
I keep threatening to do a crystal show on here one night.
Then don't threaten us with a good time.
I think I'll probably do that at some point, but I'm going to have to put some work into it because first of all, I got to dig all that crap out because it's funny. When I moved the last time, I had all that stuff packed away and I just didn't take it out. And I got so much up there, it's ridiculous. But, a lot of the working stuff I've used, and I use a lot of different things. I mean, my son would attest to that.
I would love to know more about that. I find that fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can do a kind of a semi divination show or energy show or protection thing all in one. Nothing dark. Just
right
on how to help people and how to work. And we'll do that one time. Vincent wants to know any pale humanoid updates. Oh, geez. Not really. Every once in a while, I hear a weird one. I did write the book, Meme Humanoids. pretty well most of all that is in the book, but occasionally since then I have had a few. I posted one or two the past week or so. This is, I don't know what you all think about this, but this is a phenomenon I still don't understand. I even wrote a book about it, still don't know what the hell's going on. And yeah, it's like, where are these things coming from? Why are they here? Are they thought forms? Are they?
Is it like intent? Yeah, like almost like egregores that are thought into existence by the collective consciousness.
Possibly. I mean, the whole Slender Man thing, even though that's a creepypasta thing, but people swear that others have manifested these things, thought form manifested. I occasionally get a Slender Man sighting, and it's like, well, those things aren't real, but these people are seeing them. There's something that's manifesting these things. It's
that one picture is like me gardening right there. I don't have a green thumb.
So no, the whole that whole phenomena, really, I've only really started hearing a lot about it that more and more about maybe 8 years ago, and then somebody taught me into writing a book about it. And so, but it's interesting when you write a book and you still don't have any answers to what's going on. So,
yeah, you wind up having more questions than answers, but at least you're putting it out there too.
Exactly.
I think it's important.
Yeah, well, I put as many examples as I could get out there, and I am getting a lot of feedback on that even yet. So, I wish I could tell people what give a more definitive answers, but all I know is it's a worldwide phenomenon. That picture up there right now came from Poland. It was part of a video of this thing that was caught on camera, and but throughout North America, it's a phenomenon that's becoming more and more apparent, and so.
And you have to wonder if, somebody started how they started the Slender Man story. So it just took off, and then it became real, and then it learned, it became aware of itself, and realized by scaring people or doing whatever it does, that's how it gets its energy. So it's continuing to do that to thrive, and
I think a lot of phenomena may be actually mind manifested to a point. Of course, poltergeists are mind manifested beings. They're not necessarily spirits. They can become involved with a spirit, but I think maybe some cryptids are even mind manifested. I have thought that on occasion when somebody, even with James, there's a perfect example. That first encounter he had, it's like this thing shows up in front of you, take a shot at it, there's blood spray all over the place, and this thing walks away. It's like, was this a manifestation? Was this a real thing or what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think, James?
Our minds are so strange because they work hard to protect us from trauma. So
well,
we
I think so.
What we're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a frustrating thing, but yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Our minds are weird.
Oh yeah, the human mind's strange. So what do you think, James? Do you think it's a possibility that it might have been manifested or what?
Well, I mean, in my case, I mean, I don't believe that I manifested it. Put it that way. I mean, because, granted, growing up, I watched a lot of monster movies, like werewolves and zombies and vampires and you name it. I think I could name you the 3 famous vampires before I could walk. You know what I mean? And but I mean, myself personally, I don't think that it was a manifestation per se. But who knows? I mean, a couple years after I had that experience, well, actually, the following year after I had my second encounter, there were some kids playing on that same road where I had my second encounter, And they didn't really go into detail, but I found a report where they said that a large, hairy creature crossed the road in front of them while they were riding their bicycles.
Really?
Yeah, and it was literally about 200 feet or 200 yards from where I had my second encounter. So is there something skulking the woods? Who knows? But I know, like in my case, I in my heart of hearts, I know there's something there.
Right.
There's some physical being there. But who's to say that, people didn't think it into existence and I ran across it. It's just one of those things I don't think we'll ever know until we find it.
Yeah. And in turn, that sort of kind of kept you away from doing something you like too, as I understand it.
Oh, for a long time.
That sucks.
Talking about the upright canines in Pennsylvania, Lon, a friend of mine actually just called me today and told me, and if you're familiar with Forbes State Forest out here in Western PA, Southwestern PA, him and a couple of friends went to Forbes the other night. I guess last week they went out there to do call blasting for Sasquatch. Well, they call blasted and didn't hear anything, so they decided to switch to a infant cry. And I guess whenever they switched to the infant cry, immediately after they call blasted it, he said it sent chills up his spine. What they heard, it sounded exactly like a werewolf in a movie howling off in the distance. The one guy actually got so scared that he locked himself in their car and wouldn't come out till they were leaving. So that tells me something,
Yeah, you ought to follow up on that. But it doesn't surprise me.
There's something terrible. I bought an Aztec death whistle, and I don't know if anyone's ever heard one of those.
Oh my God, yeah, I have.
But yeah, now, and when I first got it, so I think my neighbors probably thought that there is some kind of demon activity going on in this neighborhood about a year ago, about 3 in the morning. Because I thought, I'm a punk. I'm up, I got fun, and just blow that at 2 in the morning, and I'm like, you know what? People like Lon, we get a lot of phone calls if I keep doing this. Use it. Oh, they have it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, the only result I got was the police coming. So.
Well, folks, we're going to wrap this up.
Well, I seen Karen Peterson asked me a question there. She said, James, did the upright canine you encountered run, or did it move more in a jumping manner? It ran. It ran. The first one ran on 2 legs after I shot it. The second one ran on all 4s.
Cool.
It looked like a dog running. So I said before, Lon, whenever I told you, I thought it was just a large dog until it grabbed a hold of me.
Right.
Until I just physically knew that it had hands. I thought it was just a dog. It ran exactly like a dog.
What did you shoot it with?
A 12
I mean, obviously a gun. 12 gauge, okay.
12 gauge.
Was it double lot or was it
coyote loads?
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it was enough that you could take like a 1,200-pound Kodiak grizzly and it would have put it down at the range that I was at,
Right. So it wasn't like bird shot.
No, it was the smallest thing that you can get, or the largest thing you can get right before buckshot.
No.
Right.
Well, that should have brought anything down. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been a person, it probably would have blew you in half,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
well,
then,
go ahead, Bernadette.
Oh, well, Ricky had asked the question, which, James might be able to answer or give his opinion on. Do any of you know if Dogman has some kind of armor that protects them from gunshots?
I've heard that before. So I've talked to a few, quote unquote experts in the field that say that some of them that they believe that are either extraterrestrial or interdimensional have a type of body armor that they wear. There's been reports of them actually, you can physically see armor on them. Others just seem impervious to gunshots for some reason. I know from experience, the one that I shot, it hit it and it wounded it because it misted blood. So I mean, I think that's all in a matter of maybe someday we'll find out where these things are coming from, and maybe there's differentiation in where they come from that determines what they have. You know, kind of like the Predator movies. You know, depending on what predator you're running up against, that's what they have. You know.
I wonder if we go over to where they are, we might be impervious to their laser beams.
Right. I mean, I understand.
We don't know, right?
Saying, you know, you never know. I mean, if they're interdimensional, if we travel into their dimension, are we going to be impervious to the weaponry that they use? Who knows?
Maybe that's why they're afraid of us, or some of them are.
Right.
I don't know.
So, is y'all want to put out to the audience how they can get in contact with you if they have a case or something they want you to look into? James, go ahead.
Okay. You can reach me at Greene County, PA Cryptids. That's Greene, Greene, Greene County, PA Cryptids, and that's on Facebook. I check it daily, so if you contact me there, or you can also reach me on Facebook Messenger as James West, and my profile picture is a Dogman upright canine with a red filter over it.
Okay, Kit.
Yeah, I would say Instagram. I don't post much about this. So long story short, like my agent and stuff's like, stay away from this stuff because no one will hire you. And I don't care.
That sounds like an agent.
Exactly. But
well, anybody's got a question for Kit, get a hold of me and I'll give it to him. That's
that's perfect. Yeah, I'll be glad to help anybody. Just don't tell anybody. I'm kidding.
And Bernadette, how can people get a hold of you?
They could email me at paranormallife@gmail.com, or they could find me on Facebook. And I started today a Paranormal Life Facebook group, so you can find me there.
Great. So, folks, thanks for coming on tonight and participating. Hopefully, the audience got a little more information than what they had before. And, folks, this is going to be a regular thing with the roundtables. We're probably going to do it like every 3 months. We've got almost 20 members of the team now. Yeah,
and I love these questions that we had, especially the one guy was talking. He was a fly and he liked to buzz around. That was fun. But yeah, there were some great questions here. That again, someone like me who.
Well, you'll have to join us again, Kit, and we'll make this a regular thing. I like getting the team out in front of the public so they can answer questions. People see who they are and give an idea of what we actually do. So, folks, thanks for coming on, and I'll be talking to you all soon. Have a good weekend.
Hey, thanks,
Bye.
Lon.
Now, if you have a sighting or encounter report that you'd like to be considered for the personal report show or post on Families of Monsters, feel free to forward to my email at lonstrickler@familiesofmonsters.com. Now, of course, if you've had an unexplained encounter or sighting, feel free to contact me through the Families of Monsters blog site or email me as well. I want to again thank the team members for joining me this evening, and thanks to each and all you for watching and chatting. If you made a super chat donation, it's very much appreciated. Your support is what makes this possible, so please like, subscribe, and share, and do comment. I always look forward to the comments. Now, next Wednesday, we will have another personal reports presentation. So that'll be Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. And but next Friday, there's no show because I am going to a local Bigfoot town hall. Some of the team members are going to be joining me for that as well. So that'll be in Biglerville if anybody's interested. That's just north of Gettysburg. So that'll be next Friday night. I think it's 6:30 p.m., something like that. So if you want information, send me an email and I'll give it to you. So until next week, next Wednesday anyway, stay healthy and have a safe, enjoyable weekend. Good night.